All right, and we are live. If everything went okay, I think it did. I feel like we're live. Do you guys feel alive? They look alive.
Yeah. Barely. After that FTC case, yeah, man, that was a pretty brutal beatdown. But we'll get into that.
You are not kidding. If you love Law, or if you love Xbox, you might have been interested in this. If you love Law and Xbox, this was probably like your all-time greatest week ever because you got everything that you could have possibly wanted in a scandalous video game trial. We had leaks, we had redactions that weren't actually redacted. Don't bring those Sharpies, as the judge reminded everyone at the end. We had all the big names. Everybody came except for Jim Ryan, which we'll get into here in a little bit. He did make an appearance, just not an in-person one. For someone who cares about this deal a whole lot, that was,
maybe you got to do that part in quotes. Somebody who cares about this deal a whole lot. As we found happened out.
There. Yeah. So, well, let's go ahead and start with introductions, Kevin. So why don't you go ahead and get us started, and then we'll get into the juicy gossip of the week.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Xbox Talks. Here we are. For those of us that don't know, Xbox Talks is a podcast for the Xbox Series X community and Xbox One community on Reddit. Let's do our round of introductions. Like Jay said, I am Kevin Korkenstein. We have Jay
Foreman. Aloha, I sometimes say, because Mikey got me on a thing. If you listen regularly, you'll know what I'm babbling about. If not, that's fine.
And we have Grim.
Yep. How's it going, everyone?
Or Grim Provides. Ivan Grim Provides for those.
Or Grim Provides, yeah.
There you go. He runs our helps run our Discord. For those that want to jump into somewhere else to talk about this, they've been talking about the FTC case or just in gaming in general. We may be using Discord stages coming up, moving forward to where we host this, so we can bring you guys back in for some live actual interaction. Go check them out. They are on our subreddit. Up at the top menu bar, you should see something that says socials and then Discord.
Absolutely. It's fun to hang out there. A little different than Reddit. It's most subreddits now, I feel like, have an alternative kind of communities, and Discord is probably one of the most popular for many reasons. It's just nice being able to have focus channels and live conversation as well. That's something that Reddit is really not great at creating, is being able to have that flow, that back-to-back, if you want to talk about maybe you need some help with a problem with your Xbox, or you're stuck in a game somewhere, or you just want to come in and sling some dirt about the FTC trial. It all happens there too, just in a little bit of a different way than happens on Reddit, where we all know how that works. And it works somehow.
So definitely, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, I've been playing the same games. We usually talk about what we've been playing too, and it's still Final Fantasy IV for me, even though I have 16. I don't know what's wrong with me. I spent $70 on a game and go back and play a 30-year-old one. I really want to complete it, and I was halfway through it. So being a Reddit mod, I did have Final Fantasy 16 spoiled for me this week. That's awesome. Reading through somebody's comments, it's just kind of, when you sign up to volunteer for this stuff, that's a potential that's going to happen. So that might have taken a little bit of my zest out of to play through it too. But after 4, I'm going right to 16. None of these are on Xbox, unfortunately. We well discussed it here about how we wish that wasn't the case, but it is. On the Xbox side of things, Xbox is now my Blizzard machine, and it only plays Overwatch and Diablo, and it plays on them both a lot, though. So those are both great titles to me still.
Nice. Diablo 4 pretty much for me. Diablo
Perfect.
4. I did go back into Car Mechanic Simulator on the PC because I had it on Steam for the longest time, and I was playing it a lot. And then Mikey brought it up, and I was like, let me go back. So I played a little bit of that, but it's mostly just been trying to grind to World Tier 4. I'm at 62 right now, level 62. And then just grinding through nightmare dungeons, hell tides, world bosses. If you guys want a really, really good site, helltides.com. They post when the world bosses are coming up, when the hell tides are happening, when legions are, where they're at. It's all kind of user populated. And so far, at least for hell tides chest, it's been 100% on where you can find that 175 chest of mysteries.
Wow, you're way in there, man. I've been getting there. I mean, I got a couple level 50 characters yet, though, but I'm still at World Tier 2. I haven't even beaten the main campaign yet. My goal has been to complete it by the time the first season starts, because I know there's some perks that you get from finishing the campaign. Maybe you can skip around a little bit, like you get that mount on your new characters, and and just having the familiarity with it, because once you get into a campaign, it's kind of or once you get into the seasons, the campaign becomes kind of secondary, and you start focusing on that end game stuff. And you know, when you get to do a quest, it's just like blah, 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 shut up, shut up. All right, next thing, you know, you just one of those kind of moves. So the season is starting, I think, this month, if I had that right. I don't know if we have an exact date yet. Are you guys up on that? Maybe
I don't know yet. I haven't seen anything, but then again, I haven't went out and looked. Hopefully, if anybody in the chat is here, they know what date it is. I mean, we have Google too. We could look it up. I'll just look it up.
Well, there's a live stream coming this week on Thursday, July 6th, and that's going to include both the release date of the season and lots of information, including the theme of the first season. So we know there's going to be themes now, which is kind of interesting to me. You kind of get those with Overwatch, where they have the what's going on right now. It's kind of like a questy type theme or something. So I think the bottom line here is Blizzard is really good at making games that make people pay extra money into them. and even Diablo Immortals, which I know is very controversial, free to play and kind of scummy in a lot of ways. But I'm hoping that they keep the console version a little more clean and above the belt than that. So we will find out this Thursday.
So yeah, per Blizzard, mid to late July.
Okay, so
the season start date.
So we'll get that exact date then, and yeah, it might be the week after. You don't know, because from Thursday to Thursday is the 13th. That's I feel like they usually roll their countdown on Tuesdays, though. I don't know. I feel like it's a Blizzard thing. I mean, I don't know if that's still true anymore. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Grib.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
I honestly have been playing Final Fantasy 16. I decided to give it a shot, and yeah, it's really good. Like, you know, I wanted to try a demo. I skipped a demo, and I just went in like not knowing what to expect. But I know a lot of people like the combat, and you know, obviously some people miss turn-based, but the combat's so much fun. I'm having a blast with the combat.
That's good to hear. I know that you're much more skilled at those kind of games than me, including fighting games and just action combat, Souls games. So hearing you give it an endorsement makes me feel better about the journey I have ahead of me, because I did have concerns. I've talked about them on the show here. It's felt a little easy to me to start.
Yeah.
So just to understand, the combat isn't like the normal turn-based. It's more of like Final Fantasy 15 / like I've heard Devil May Cry possibly brought into this, the Bayonetta style. Because I haven't played the demo. I've downloaded it on my PlayStation. I just haven't played it.
I'd say if you played the demo, you might very well buy the game. I feel like it's one of the better, more compelling demos I've played in maybe the last decade. One of the combat orchestrator, choreographer, I don't know what you say in video games. Anyways, he does have Devil May Cry roots, so I think that does bleed through this game, and Ivan could probably speak more to that since he's more deeper into the campaign. So how does the combat evolve as you proceed into the game?
Pretty much like, I guess what used to be summons, they're called like econs now.
Yep.
Like, you know, so those would give you, depending on how you want to build it, like certain moves, like attacks. And you can flip between the different summons, and they would be basically on the ready. If you played like Tales of Arise, it kind of reminds me more of that than like Devil May Cry. It's really fun doing that, like trying to link it together, and certain ones will have like a stagger effect, or will build stagger better than others, and just, you know, keeping things going so that you don't end up like cornering yourself or getting hit with stuff. And it's definitely encouraging like an evasive style. And what I really like about it, you would, like, let's say you want to dodge an attack, you would dodge it, and if let's say the enemy is doing like a whirlwind attack, so you see like a second swing, you have to dodge that second swing. Sometimes I'm used to playing like something like Dark Souls, you roll and you kind of roll through like the whole attack string because of the iframes. But this one, it seems like you have to worry about, is there actually a second attack? Like, am I still going to get hurt by that follow-up? And that's what's keeping me engaged, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Tales of Arise, that is available on Xbox. Is that correct? I feel like I've had that wishlisted for a little while, because my gaming roots really do go back to JRPGs, the early Final Fantasies, and Dragon Quest now back in the day. So it's good to see that kind of support coming to Xbox. We all know that Xbox has had some struggles with, especially last generation, bringing over those developers. So I'll have to get a Tales of Arise too. I know a lot of people have endorsed that one. So if you're on the Xbox side of things and you can't play Final Fantasy, you know, maybe search that one out. I've seen it on sale a few times, deeply discounted. So if you need to scratch that itch, that's a likely candidate there.
Yeah, I also gave Mortal Kombat 1 a try during that network test, which, it's really fun as well. But it's weird because, like, it's a game that, like, because after I played it, I watched other people play it, and I don't think what I saw or played necessarily translates when you watch like a stream, and that's kind of hard for fighting games sometimes to like translate what you've experienced. And it's like it's slower than 11 as far as like how it feels and plays, but with the assist characters and everything else, it adds like an interesting dynamic to where not only do you have your full move list now, whereas other Mortal Kombat games, like especially 11 and 10, made you have to like select what kind of fighting style you want and what special moves. You have all those available, and that's great. But the real thing, like the kicker, would be the extensions that you get from the assists now, rather than just doing your extensions off your main attacks. So you kind of have to do like this balancing act with them, and it's pretty fun. There's a lot more aerial combos than I'm used to, but it is basically Mortal Kombat, just slower. And I don't know if they slowed it so that you have like breathing room for the assist characters. It also seems to be more friendly to newcomers in a way, because it's like you can easily tell that this person is punishable from what they did. Like if you block an attack and you see them like kind of like still recovering from what they just did in their animation, you could just do your attack right back. Whereas some other games it's a little vague, like Street Fighter 6. I know a lot of people were struggling figuring out what moves were punishable and which ones weren't. But this one, I don't think people are going to run into that as much.
I love that. Is punishable like an official fighting game term? Does that just mean like you screwed up and you get your face beat in kind of thing? So, okay.
Yeah, like if you there's like whiff punish. So if you do an attack and you miss completely and then the person hits, it would be a punish. And the same thing would happen if you did something that's unsafe on block. So certain attacks, if you hit them, you won't be able to recover in time, even if you're holding the block button, because now you're stuck in this like longer animation. The other person can come back and hit you. And in a lot of games, especially like Street Fighter, I didn't really pay attention with like Mortal Kombat's meter too much, but like I know with Street Fighter, if you get like a punish hit, you actually get better damage properties and even longer combos. And the same thing applies to Tekken, where you can get like a launch punish. So if they do something that's really unsafe, you can do your like 12 frame launcher and just send them flying and then get a full combo off that.
Holy cow. See, as a novice fighting game player, I never, I have given consideration to how much skill it takes and obviously the timing and everything, but the level of just how quick you have to be mentally, to counter, to make moves, to take advantage of certain situations, to be like, oh, boom, I got to hit this right now. It really is. It's probably more skill based than some shooters, I think, and I don't think that's a very big stretch, really. I think some of your top skilled game players are playing fighting games like this, and that's amazing. This sounds like it's pretty solid then, by your judgment.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna have fun with it. The only, I would say, complaint I would have is, but it's not even a complaint, right? It's like if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you'll like this game. If you're not, if you thought Mortal Kombat was kind of whatever, this game is not trying to win you over. It is just for the fans. Like that's it, unapologetic, going right for it. So if you didn't like it before, you're not going to like this one. But if you did like it before, it's great.
Hey, go back to that well. That's a deep well, that's what I'm saying. People try to change game formulas and stuff, and they've absolutely ruined them in some people's eyes. So, keep building on that same foundation, and I think it'd be just fine. Even like casual like me just wants to play it because I know the story and the cutscenes are always fantastic. Maybe a little campy, but they're fun, and that gets me into it. And the fatality, it's all fun to play through. And if you got some buddies over, that's always winner stays kind of thing. It could go on forever and ever. So that was good. I had forgotten that. Yeah, I was sitting on that last week, and I think it was Sunday. I was like, oh my god, I have this code for Mortal Kombat. We had discussed it on last week's podcast, and everybody was giving me grief, rightfully. Like, I haven't even played it yet. And I was like, oh man, I know who to ship it to. So that was a value to me. No, I appreciate the feedback. Now I know what's going on, because I would have played it and been like, herp derp, yep, you punch and you kick and good game. You give that in-depth perception. So it's really helpful. So Kevin, are we ready?
Yeah, I think we are ready to go for this FTC shenanigans that's been going on for this past 5 days. It's been insanely interesting. I'm sure, as everybody already knows, FTC is going up against Microsoft for their merger of Activision Blizzard. Their $69 billion acquisition of, you got to put that number in because that's a pretty big number, and that's what I think a lot of this comes down to, is that big number. It's a huge merger case, and Sony's not happy, which means the FTC is not happy. which means we have this crazy courtroom battle that's going on. How did you guys want to do this? Do you want to go through the last couple of days we didn't cover? I can't remember when we did our last show.
Well, we
and
did
what we covered.
Sure. So last week we caught the first 2 days of testimony. We caught Matt Booty's testimony, some of the early stuff. This week was more about closing arguments, and financial experts came in, but we did get Bobby Kotick, depending on who you're asking, apparently, in this trial, and who else was on the stand? The big guys. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, I believe is the official term. He's Mr. Microsoft right now, basically. So he came in, and he's a sharp guy. He answered some questions too. Their testimony was actually kind of, I would say, not as exciting as maybe people wanted it to be. They were very sharp guys. They played it by the book. They knew what the agenda was, and did very well. I think they both did very well for Microsoft's case, and not making any major blunders. So I guess let's start with those two. That seems like a fair place to start, because that's how the week started. It was on Tuesday, and we got into there. Is there anything that like stood out to you guys from the coverage, or if you were listening in? I know that I listened almost the entire thing, all 3 days somehow, and it got to be some long days, that's for sure. But there's a lot of news and coverage out there. So what did you guys think about the first day, I guess?
It was interesting because Bobby kind of dropped some news and stuff like that. At one point, I believe he said, if this PI is approved, we're going to walk, pretty much. Activision, I think, said they're going to take their ball home, and that's going to be the end of it. He also mentioned, why am I blanking right now? Sorry, I totally
No, it's okay. I'll build on that last point, though, about the walking thing. I think that's kind of been the messaging here for a little bit, not just from Microsoft, but from outsiders too, from people observing this. There's it's like a $3 billion breakup fee, if you will, if they don't complete this by July 21st. And Microsoft has been, and Activision have been using that as a point in their favor to expedite these proceedings. We'll talk a little bit about the CAT and the CMA in the UK as well. We can probably do that right here because it kind of ties in. The CAT, nope, the CMA, I'm sorry, they're the regulatory body. They were pushing to delay this even more. They were like, we need more time to prepare to defend the decision that we made. And if you want to get into the craziness of that, that's almost a whole nother subject. They basically did all this research to come down and say they don't want to do this decision. They want to block this merger. And now that Microsoft is challenging it, they're just like, we need more time to figure out why we want to block this merger. Like, they didn't already do their homework. They didn't already have this time. So the CAT is where this gets appealed to. A tribunal. I'm sorry, there's so many acronyms. It's amazing that I can keep just the letters straight, more or less what they stand for. But regardless, they said that they pretty much called baloney. They're like, there's no reason, over and over. And if you read this, it's actually kind of scathing. And I can probably pull up some choice quotes for you. But basically, just said, you got to be kidding me. You guys have had everything in your court. You have all the information. You've had all the time in the world. You knew the likely outcome was going to be an appeal. And now you're coming at the last possible seconds. They had like 2 or 3 weeks to file this extension. They waited until the very last moment to do it. It's like the judge just was not having any of it. And it wasn't just a judge. I believe this was actually a 3-person panel. This was unanimous. Again, it was just really scathing. So if you're looking at the UK side of things, that's separate to the FTC. That's good news for Microsoft over there, basically. Which brings us back to the FTC and what Kevin was kind of saying, that we want to wrap this up, right? And the judge in this case said they recognize the damage. Microsoft and Activision know that the judges know that they're under a timeline pressure, so they're trying to emphasize that. They're saying, hey, if we can't get this done in a timely manner, we're both done. You're going to kill the deal, not out of merit, but just because your proceedings are such BS, basically. They're like, you're going to bleed us to death in fees and money and just a waste of time. So I think that was a pretty good point. I think Bobby was being smart there. I don't know if that was serious. Maybe I assume that it was truthful and honest. He's under oath that they'll walk if this becomes too much of a hassle after this point. It's already been a huge burden, that they're just going to be like, we're out of here, screw you, and they're going to blow up the building and walk away.
Yeah, and then with that, we also found out that Bobby said he regrets not bringing Call of Duty to the Switch. He did not think the Switch was going to take off as big as it was, and he regrets it. That was actually kind of something I was kind of shocked about.
It
That
was.
they considered Call of Duty for the Switch, and then they're like, Bobby's like, nah, the Switch ain't gonna take off. Now we have what, like 100 millions of Switch consoles out there in the market with no COD on it.
We do, and I'm going to play a little devil's advocate on this one because I've seen the counterpoints out there. We are kind of an Xbox, themed podcast, and we lean that way. But I like to at least take into consideration the counterpoints. And one of them is that, well, what's happened, the last several years? The Switch has been out for a while now, and it's obviously a success. What's to prevent Activision from coming in now and be like, wow, that was a great successful product. We should make a COD for there. So I'm actually not really too clear, and not because I don't understand what the arguments are, but I'm not sure what point is trying to be made with making Call of Duty available on the Switch or withholding it from the Switch. I think one of the things for Microsoft, right, is they want to put it on the Switch, so this would be expanding that audience. So to me, it feels like maybe Bobby should be saying, well, we never wanted to put it on the Switch, and that's kind of what he's saying, right?
So what the FTC was trying to do there is they were trying to show that the Switch isn't a Gen 9 console. They wanted to show that the Switch shouldn't be considered as part of their market research, because that's what their numbers were based off of, is the exclusion of the Nintendo Switch. And that's where they got a lot of their market, their numbers and things like that to skew their evidence or whatever they're trying to push, that, hey, look at, no, the Switch isn't calculated in this. And that's what they were trying to get Bobby on, is to be like, look at, you didn't even realize that it was a competitor to the Xbox and Sony, because you didn't even bring Call of Duty onto this platform. And he was like, well, no, it's not the case. I just didn't think the Switch was going to sell well. So
I think doesn't this kind of bite them in the butt, though? Isn't this like a point for Microsoft? Because if Microsoft buys Activision, well, we're going to bring it to the Switch now. And they would have never considered that before, right? Doesn't this expand it to more players? Isn't that kind of Xbox's whole lane in this, is that they're going to make these games more accessible?
And that's what they ended up following back with, is that, well, this is what Xbox is planning to do. We want to bring Xbox to the, Call of Duty to the Switch and stuff. We've made agreements. And that's something that Phil Spencer's also talked about, if I remember correctly, in his testimony. But yeah, this comes down to what I kind of mentioned last week, is that the FTC is going for gotcha moments. They're trying to be like, haha, you said this on this day, didn't you? And was that factual and true? And the guy's like, yes. And then all the MS lawyer comes in and says, yeah, you said this, but let's add some context. And then they add the context and it makes sense. This is the whole case, is that they're trying to create doubt in Judge Corley's mind. They're trying to put it to be like, look at, Microsoft has said all this stuff before, and look what they ended up doing. And that's where they're doing all these lack of context gotcha moments to well, in your disposition, you said this, and then you said this, and then now you're saying this. So which one is it? And that's what they're trying to go for. It's just not going to work. It's been a bad strategy since the start. And you can see how many times even the judge has called them out a little bit on it, especially towards the ending days, where she was like, well, this isn't about Sony, this is about harm to the consumers. So that kind of thing. So it's really weird strategy that they've been using. But to go back to it, yeah, it ended up biting them in the ass, in my opinion, because they were trying to go for a gotcha moment that lacked a ton of context. And once the context was added, they were like, oh, okay, next question.
Yeah, and not the first time. I forget who was on the stand, but there's been points where they've taken quotes out of context, and it might have been Microsoft's CFO, but they were like, well, just read above that. You're like, I said right above that. I didn't understand what you were asking me, but this is my best response based on that. And it's like, then you're going to come back and use this quote like I just said it like as a hard fact, and they're like, that's not really how that goes. And the judge seemed to get really short there. Like, she noticed that, and she's like, let's move on. And judge seems to be pretty on top of things for somebody who isn't a gamer like us, who's imagine trying to oversee this just based on your knowledge of financial law and all that stuff, and not having the in-depth understanding of how the market's evolved over the last 10, 20 years, or even who the players are, what some of these products are. You can see sometimes she's exasperated, and she's like, all of this over a shooting game, and I'm just like, yeah, well, yeah, kind of. And she doesn't seem to really. There's a lot of language, a lot of not body language, but verbiage that just seems like she is just not really on board with this. I guess it remains to be seen. Just some of the jokes she's made and some of the stuff that she has commented has seemed to be in favor of Microsoft in this case. One of the things that we talked about in the pre-show is that she had mentioned that yeah, she said, and this is pretty much a quote, take her switch a few words, but she had mentioned that the FTC had already won in a lot of ways because they've gotten these concessions out of Microsoft and other markets and other regulatories. When they make those promises in Europe, they still hold true over here in the U.S. basically. And that was really strong to me. And I feel like maybe I'm making too big a deal out of this or something. But to say in a lot of ways you've already won, it certainly seems to me to paint a picture where that's your win. Like that's what you're getting out of this. You don't need me to come in and further just deny this deal. Like you've gotten these concessions. You've gotten what you were majorly concerned about, the shooting game. That we're all just here for a shooting game. You've gotten that promise to everybody, everywhere that wants it, including to PlayStation. If they don't want to sign on that line, I guess that's it's going to have to be a condition. Maybe the FTC can require that, or more likely in the UK. But there's nothing that compels Microsoft to still offer that contract if Sony doesn't, unless one of these courts make them do it. So really, really weird situation. But that language again, that really is strong to me. And also the joke about how the ABK and Microsoft lawyers might be the same soon. And I know it's a joke. But again, this is you pick up on these little things, and after a while, they start to build kind of a painting of maybe somebody's thinking.
Yeah, when I heard in some ways you've already won, I think it's because it's like with the FTC, their whole point is to protect the consumer, to make sure that the consumer isn't forced to have to buy something Microsoft related. And with these deals, you don't necessarily have to. I mean, you can do any of these things. Like I could be on Nvidia and play it there, and it's like Microsoft's offering to do something like that without having the FTC knocking at the door. So they already won in that regard, where it's like, I don't need any more push. I'm already giving this away. I just want to own it so that I don't have to make these weird deals that are forced on me now that PlayStation made a deal and I'm getting a worse deal. I'm just going to buy the company and make sure everyone has a good deal. And it's that's kind of what I got from it. But I can also see it as you won the case, so why are you still pushing? But it really did seem like at some points the FTC was more worried about the damage that would be done to PlayStation, while also ignoring what's being a benefit to players, like even Call of Duty being brought to the Switch now, possibly.
Yeah, it's expanding the market and all those cloud providers, and they did bring up the NVIDIA testimony, which was I believe the testimony was taken before the 10-year contract was offered. Now NVIDIA has completely changed their stance. The FTC can test that this is a sweetener. Almost it was like they were bribed to come over, so that this shouldn't be, their new testimony shouldn't be considered after that case. And that feels like a bridge too far to me. Like they're really grasping. They're like, no, you must pay attention to this stuff before Microsoft made it good with them. Ignore the remedies that they offered, which is really the point of a lot of these regulators, is to get the remedies or the concessions, to get them to give back a little bit. Another thing,
and I was gonna say, to go back to your earlier point, for the judge to give her a lot of credit, I doubt she's out there playing, Call of Duty, and she has an Xbox, a PS5 or Switch. I mean, the last console she's probably seen is probably a Nintendo, so to her credit, this is where I think the FTC is failing big time, is because Xbox has been given so much information. Like, look at their economist that they brought in. She was, compared to Lee, Jesus. We'll get into that guy. Like I already told you in the Discord, I was like, screw this nerd. I am roasting him when we talk about it on the show. But this is where the FTC has really royally screwed up, in my opinion. Is they've been so focused on these gotcha moments and trying to be like, haha, I got you, but they've lacked so much context that at the end of it, the judge is asking these hard-hitting questions, like she did with Phil Spencer, and like she did towards the end of the trial. There's been times where she's had to clarify because the FTC's lacked so much behind their point that she's get more information. To give her, to her credit, she's definitely been really awesome in trying to get to the bottom of this and really truly understand it. I think that's if anything that's going to hurt the FTC, that was its biggest thing, is they've kept the judge so far out of the loop and in the dark on what they actually mean, that it's given the MS so much time, Microsoft so much time to come in and explain and give context, that she's like, well, that actually makes sense now.
Yeah, and also I think in some ways it kind of hurt in FTC's case, where it's like the FTC's worried about Xbox having like exclusive content and things like that. It's like, isn't that what PlayStation does? Like, I think that's what the judge even said.
Yeah.
It's like now you're just like showing that if anything, this acquisition probably should happen because we're seeing that already, and no one owns it.
Oh yeah, definitely true. Yeah, when she said that, I mean, towards the end, yeah, she was just dropping bombs on this and just really just giving it to the FTC, especially even with their lawyer and their case, where she was like, okay, we're gonna move along here from this, and yeah, I think she's over the FTC shenanigans, and that should have been a clear sign for the FTC to switch strategy before it was too late, but nope. They doubled down on it.
They have not switched strategy since the very beginning of this thing. There's been a lot of comments that they started with the conclusion and built backwards instead of just looking at the evidence and coming to a conclusion. And I absolutely believe that this was wanted. This was a big stand. If you're familiar with the American political scene right now, reining in big tech is a big concern with the President Biden administration. Without getting too political, the reason that Lena Khan was appointed is because she was going to do this. She was going to come in and be the bull in the china shop and start bashing people around and throwing her weight around. A couple problems with that. It takes money. The FTC is currently cash strapped, asking for more money to help regulate other industries. So without having unlimited resources, you can't just go in and bash everybody around. And then the other issue is just picking targets based on size without really looking at the merit of them. This one, obviously, $70 billion probably looked like a big neon sign. We should get in there. And with the gaming thing, that's going to make a lot of media coverage. Look, we're doing our job. Everybody's going to see it. But I'm not even sure if she understood gamers and the market that she was jumping into, and just what kind of turmoil this is going to bring, and the coverage that it was going to bring, and the pushback and the push for, the people on both sides of this, like, they're very passionate. This isn't like a case of making fridges, making too many fridges or something like that. Nobody cares about that except for the businesses involved. Like, nobody's going to be like, oh man, Whirlpool, they're really dominating that fridge market. Dang, I hate those guys. No, that doesn't happen. So in this case, it's a real hotbed, basically. So when it comes down to it, though, it sounds like the judge, like Kevin was saying, was over this trial maybe by day 2. She had enough. Another thing where I think maybe she had her mind made up and she was convinced that she wasn't going to see anything that was going to sway her decision one way or the other, because she tried to seem fair and honest, but she also seemed like, well, I have other stuff to do. She does. She had other trials that she was managing at the same time. And again, that verbiage, that body language, she was cutting a lot of things short. She was asking questions for both representations, just trying to get to the heart of it and trying to get through or bypass a lot of the legalness, the pretentiousness. And this is where we can come back to Mr. Lee, because if I wanted to think of one word that describes the testimony that we received from Mr. Lee, it was pretentious and challenging, starting with the very first question. When he was
Captain
asked,
Semantics over here.
Yes, he was asked if he was hired to do the research that he did, and he's like, oh no, I was retained. And then I'm not sure who asked next. They're like, isn't that the same thing as hired? And he's like, yes, I was retained.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, this is going to be fun. And if that gives you any idea about how the next day of testimony went, it was a lot of that. It was really hard to listen to. I think the judge didn't really care for it too much, just because he would challenge every single thing, basically. Like you said, semantics. So that word wasn't right. This wasn't right. To where we got to Microsoft a few days later, and or maybe the next day, and their financial person was very straightforward. A lot of yes answers. A lot of just they weren't looking to fight everything. They're like, yes, that's what we're doing. Yes, that's what we're doing. No, if there was a point that needed to be made, then they would make a stand against this. So, anyways, it was two different strategies. I know that we're all kind of getting tired of this. Are you guys tired of this? What has it been, like a year and a half?
I mean, yeah, no, I'm not tired of it. I think right now we're finding out a lot of really good stuff. I do want to, I mean, I don't know if we're going to go into Dr. Lee's testimony, but there's a lot to pick there.
Let's brush over it. Yeah, we can go over it a little bit since we're trying to give a recap here. And he was a big part of it, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
What did Mr. Lee say that you took issue with?
I mean, everything. I'm really surprised that the judge didn't throw out his testimony as unreliable, or maybe she still might. She might wait till the end of the trial. The thing is, though, so once we get to the appeal, just a quick side thing. Once she makes her decision, we're not going to know the reasons why she made her decision. That's where the appeal comes in, and then that's where she'll broaden on it more. She may tell people, "Oh yeah, this is what we're going to do," or "This is why I made the decision," but she doesn't have to. She could just say, "Granted, denied."
It's under seal, so
be,
even when she makes the decision, we're not going to hear about it. It will be up to the FTC or Microsoft to inform us what the outcome is.
Yeah, so she doesn't have to explain why she made her decision. But if they appeal, which I don't think is possible, I mean, I don't think the FTC really has a case. And if Microsoft, it's better for Microsoft to appeal the PI and get a quick decision and have something in there, because then they can close the deal. There's a whole semantics on that side I can explain later.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that the outcome here, this is going to be the final outcome. Like neither side is going to want to pursue it after this, and I hope that's true.
But yeah, so with that, so she doesn't have to explain it, but I think she's going to throw his stuff out as unreliable. His testimony was largely opinion. His results and his testing methodologies method, but whatever it is, methodologies, whatever.
You're good. Yeah. I mean, he was kind of making up his own inputs, right? Like he was just making up numbers in there.
How he did it is really weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He excluded a lot of info. I mean, even the Xbox economist, she was like, at one point, she literally said, like, well, I know I did the tests, and I don't know it, basically saying he didn't do the same tests I did. And my results, this is what happened because this is how I came to this, and this. Well, you were trying to ask Dr. Lee about it, and he was just like, well, my opinion is, or, well, what method, what test are you talking about? Because there's various tests. And if you do this, I think my opinion, it was all my opinion, or probably, or likelihood. It was very hypothetical. And I mean, you really don't use hypotheticals in a court. I mean, it's actually you can object to that. In most court settings, as hypothetical. A lot of his questions were asked and answered as well. His whole entire testimony was just a lot of just bullshit. I don't know if it popped up, but yeah, it was just bull.
Yeah, that's it. You're getting us kicked off YouTube now. Just kidding. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just absolute just malarkey.
It was really hard to listen to. And I like the facts. I like data. I love this stuff. And his data was very cumbersome to a layman like me. And I think the judge might have found it the same way. And when he got pressed on inputs, there was a lot of weird stuff he did where he didn't really do the research on maybe the inputs that he used. So when I'm talking about inputs, like he's saying like, oh, well, 20% of so-and-so system X users are going to switch to system Y if this game goes exclusive to it. Basically talking about Call of Duty in this case or something like that. But he started getting poked about where he was getting those original numbers from, which then transitioned to these next set of, hypothesized numbers, I guess. So it's like taking one hypothesis and building upon that to build a second hypothesis, which is kind of what these people do. But you would like to see a little more... a little less judgment, subjectivity to the numbers that are used. You would like to see them somehow more researched and more factually based. So it got really boring and annoying.
And that's where like you found out like he was using Gen 8 numbers. He wasn't even using the Generation 9 numbers in some of his stuff.
Yeah.
They even questioned him like, hey, even PlayStation considers Nintendo Switch. Why aren't you using those numbers? It's just really weird, like how he came to this was so structured in a way that it's like, well, of course you went in favor of the FTC because your numbers or whatever, maybe they gave him, maybe this guy just got a bad rap. Maybe FTC was like, here's our evidence, and and it was so skewed in a way that he didn't have the other. I don't know. Like I'm not an economist. I don't really know how he's going to come to these testings, but I'm gonna maybe give him the benefit of the doubt that the FTC set him up.
I don't know if they set him up, but it seems like they cherry picked a lot of their information. I
Yeah.
can't think of a better term. So when they're really trying really, really hard to exclude the Switch from the data, that's because they want the data framed, in just a certain perfect way where it works out for the case that they are trying to make. So that's why they spent nearly the entire first day trying to be like, oh, the Switch doesn't count. The Switch doesn't count. Because if it does count, well, that makes our data look a lot weaker than, our case, what we're trying to present. So again, it doesn't look like it's a very broad definition. It looks like they had to paint a very narrow focus to make this line up with their vision of why this deal is bad, instead of pulling back, taking that big grand view on it, which I'm hoping is what the judge is going to do here, and looking at all the many, many factors that are in the console space, in the gaming market, that isn't just consoles, cloud and all that stuff too. So that's the outcome we're hoping for. I actually thought we might get a Friday ruling, but I think the optics on that would have been bad. Because again, I feel like the judge here respects the urgency to get this thing done, to get the wheels moving so they can move on to the next step of the process. And again, that optics would have been bad. We have a holiday this week though, so I'm hoping maybe we'll get the decision before the 4th of July. Otherwise, we are going to be waiting probably a while on this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a whole lot that she needs to go over and research to come to this conclusion. But what do I know?
Well, it will be at least Tuesday or Wednesday, because Monday they're going to enter more evidence in and they take care of all that stuff. I thought the same thing. Friday, I thought after, Friday she was going to be like, yep, this is done. This is stupid. Let's go. But no, they have to do a lot of paperwork. They have to include evidence on the Friday and Monday. But yeah, for after Monday, she's pretty much free to make whatever rulings. I think maybe she might have, I think I read somewhere she has cases on Tuesday, Wednesday, but who knows? She may make the ruling at some point in time next week.
Yeah,
and
Wednesday
is going to do it sooner than later.
Right, Wednesday's the American holiday, so I think everything will be closed down on that. So that's why I was hoping for a bit of a quicker decision. But again, even after this rolls out, well, it'd be interesting to see what Microsoft does if the injunction is denied, because Microsoft really could start doing things at that point. They've mentioned about just kind of closing over the UK, and again, the UK they're set for later this month. I think the 3rd week of July for their hearing about the CMA and the CTA and all that. So big picture, by the end of this month, we should all pretty much know. And again, if this injunction is granted, it's done. We will know sooner than later. But if the injunction is denied, by the end of the month, we'll get the UK side of things. And unless somebody cares about Canada, did you guys hear about that at the end? Canada slipped in.
I do want to follow up. Oh, sorry. I do want to follow up and say, yeah, I think Wednesday would be the earliest we'll hear something.
Yeah, and that's the 4th, so we won't hear it on Wednesday. I don't think. Well, she makes the ruling 4th. On Tuesday, yes, and then we could get the news on Wednesday. So,
no, Tuesday's the 4th.
Is it?
That's the holiday. Yeah, Tuesday's the 4th.
Yeah, look at you. All right, I'm dumb. It's fine. I celebrate on the 5th.
Oh, usually no. I feel you. Like with my job, I rarely get holidays off. So like I'm working on the 4th. So everything I do is usually the day before or the day after. So I feel you. Yeah. Also, I'm gonna eat too because I am very hungry.
That's okay. I like that. I've always wanted to do a food show. Honestly, we should have had you cooking.
This won't turn into an ASMR or whatever of me just chewing into the mic. But I am here, guys. Sorry.
No, but actually,
I'm just very hungry.
We've got about 5 minutes in the middle of the show for that ASMR segment, so I think we should go for it. I joke. So I think we've kind of battled through a lot of this and kind of done the highlights and stuff. We've talked about the judges' leanings and some of the other big things to come out of it. So just some of the things that you all have submitted to the subreddit this week. This morning, one of the top stories is IGN. Will Xbox win the FTC trial? We asked the experts. And I got to tell you, I clicked on this article and did some reading on it. And I don't see any experts in here. I see the it looks like a kind of a biased pro Sony piece. The author, Shannon Liao, seems to point out that San Francisco judge says that we wouldn't be here if Microsoft made Call of Duty itself, something that we touched on a little earlier. We're here because it wants to buy Call of Duty. We don't benefit from buying. We want to incentivize people to make their own COD-sized hits. Microsoft lawyer disagrees. And I'm going to say right now that Shannon there did a lot of paraphrasing. That's not exactly what the judge said. And then when they go on to ask the experts, they asked Florian Ederer, who's an economist at Yale. And their opinion was, if you just make amazing games that then give you a very dominant market position, that's not illegal. That's perfectly fine. Sony's God of War was brought up as an example of organic success, but they go on to challenges too. So, anyways, this is basically just kind of a hit piece, and I don't know where they found these experts. If you go out to the wider narrative, it seems a lot of people feel like Microsoft did a really good job in this case, and should come out on the right side of things. We're hoping.
I think if I have to give like odds or percentages of this passing, I would say it's probably 80% to 20%, maybe 75 to 25% in my favor of Microsoft. Microsoft, I mean, let's be honest, Microsoft had a killer like first 3 days. They were just wrecking Sarah Bond, Phil Spencer, Nadella, just all of those guys were just killing it on the stand and really showing the Microsoft their redirects and cross exams. Jim Ryan's testimony did them no favors. But the second day, the last 2 days, I think FTC made some ground. I mean, honestly, how much? After Microsoft has already gained 3, 4, 5 touchdowns, maybe Sony got one. It's still a 4-1, 5-1 game. So I don't know, but I mean, the biggest thing is, did the FTC create enough doubt in Judge Corley's mind to issue a PI for more information?
I think the question
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, the question posed legally is, can the FTC prove that immediate harm will take place without this injunction? And I'm not going to pretend that I understand what that definition of immediate harm would contain, what would define that, but it seems to be a pretty tough standard to prove, which is why the FTC is not very successful in these kind of injunctions. And in fact, as many people have pointed out, this will be the first time where one was granted in this kind of merger.
In 50 years.
Yeah. So there you go. It's really quite interesting to keep view on. And again, we know that the FTC wants to crack down on this type of stuff, and there's a lot that we can all get behind. This is something for consumers that's supposed to protect people, but in this case, it doesn't seem like consumers are the main concern to many people. It does seem to be like, well, that's not fair to Sony, and that's not what the FTC is here to do. Business is going to business, and people are going to compete in any way they can as long as it's above the board. This to me seems to be above the board.
Yeah, and that's what Judge Corley called out. And even The Verge, I think, by Tom Warren, they made a article at the very start of this that they think this is going to turn into a Sony versus Microsoft, not FTC versus Microsoft. And they were 100% right. This definitely turned into that. And yeah, even the judge called it out at the end, like, well, we're not here to protect Sony, we're here to protect consumers. And I think with the immediate harm, FTC failed on all accounts. Like I said, they tried to go for that gotcha moment and took out a lot of context to try and create artificial doubt. But as soon as the Microsoft lawyer was able to go up there, they pretty much eliminated once they got context. Or if they didn't, the judge actually jumped in. Like I was saying earlier, she jumped in and was like, well, let's find out a little bit more about this. And she did. And I just think, yeah, like I said, it was a bad strategy.
Her questions were, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, like I mentioned before, where the judge was like, when they were talking about, if Xbox gets this tomorrow, they might put like exclusive content and whatever. And it's like, well, isn't that already happening with PlayStation? Like, I think if anything, this brought to light that there is already a disparity between versions of games and stuff like that, and that's just the way the business is. And this merger isn't necessarily going to change that. Like, even I remember they were saying like, oh, I forget which person of Microsoft said, but it's like, I really don't like exclusives, but that's the way the business is. But at the end of the day, if this merger goes through, Call of Duty is going to be available on more places. And it's like, well, then what's the argument? Like, is it just PlayStation consumers that might lose out on those, special deals that they have currently? But if that's not fair to everyone else, then technically this would be the pro-consumer merger, and it would help them out more than hurt.
Yeah, and that's what the judge even said. She goes, "Well, what about Nvidia? Isn't that supposed to bring more people to consumers?" And the FTC was like, "Well, we don't have enough evidence to support that claim," or and they tried to weasel out of it, but she doubled down and asked them like a more in-depth question, and they still said the same thing, like, "Well, but we don't really know," like, which totally kills. Like, well, if you don't know what's going to happen right now, that's not immediate harm to
Yeah.
consumers.
Yeah, and she even said like Nvidia is technically a competitor, so why would they be supporting this if like they really thought it was gonna be something that would hurt them in the long run? And they even were saying like I remember at one point where it was becoming like everyone's gonna buy an Xbox. It's like, well, if they have a PC, they don't need to, right? And like the judge was bringing up this stuff, and it's just like it's so weird, but it's kind of true. It's like it would be available for PCs as well. It would just be on Game Pass,
And I don't even know why it's even like Sony being a part of this, because I mean we even have Jim Ryan's testimony where or email, I guess you could say, is his deposition and emails where he even says he doesn't see this as a threat. It wasn't until that this became a little bit more serious and stuff that he actually jumped in, because they even asked him, which was great. This was one of my favorite deposition questions because you want a gotcha moment. This was a gotcha moment for Microsoft. They asked him, do you think it would be better if Microsoft kept Activision games on PlayStation? Yes, I do. So Microsoft, so you do believe it's in Microsoft's best interest to make Activision games available on multiple platforms? Ryan, no, I don't agree with that. So if you were running Xbox, would you recommend making Call of Duty and other Activision games exclusive to Xbox and PC? Ryan, that's a hypothetical question that I do not wish to answer. Microsoft, so you don't get to answer. Ryan, I don't have enough knowledge to answer that question. So basically, he even said, "Hey, if I was Microsoft, I'd make it exclusive."
Yeah, I mean, hey, where's Minecraft making most of its money right now out of all the three consoles? It's on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah. So Microsoft is out to make money, and obviously exclusives are part of the play to get people into the ecosystem a little bit, but not these games, not Call of Duty, not Minecraft, not these cash cows, and that's been kind of the case made over and over by many Microsoft people, by many pundits, if you will. It's just too much money on the table. It's not worth sacrificing annual revenue of billions of dollars for brand growth. That's a huge investment where they can do something like Elder Scrolls 6. Here's another little tidbit. If you like news tidbits, apparently scheduled for release in 2026, according to one of Microsoft's representatives, who was using that as an example of games coming down the line that might be exclusive anyway. So that was big news to me. I don't know how firm that can be. Obviously, even if they have an idea that 2026 is where they want to launch that game.
What game?
Elder Scrolls 6. So we do know that this is
shocking because Phil Spencer was like, "Well, that game's not coming out for another 5 years."
Yeah, well, we've learned, I think 5 years is realistic. What we know is that once Starfield is done, Elder Scrolls 6 is presumably the next big project for them. We heard Fallout will be after that. I love Skyrim and Elder Scrolls, but I'm a bigger Fallout guy. But that's okay. I can wait until I'm dead. So, anyways, we're gonna get that's gonna be the next project. They're expecting another 3 years on it, but for that kind of timetable, it makes me wonder. It makes me believe that maybe they've started development on it more than that title screen that we saw 2 years ago. So maybe they've laid out a lot of the basis for the game. Who knows if they started actual coding? Probably not, since Starfield has been such a thing for them. But if they can switch gears real quickly, maybe they can get to 2024. That's my most optimistic look.
That's another funny thing too, because even further out, I mean, they were talking about the next console thing coming out until 2028.
Yeah, I know
that's when they think the next ones are coming out. Sorry, was that?
I misspoke. I said 24. I'm at 27.
Oh, okay, yeah. So he was like, for the next 5 years we're not going to see it. But I mean, even still, this is where PlayStation, I think, bit themselves again, is because we saw with the Phil Spencer interview where he was like, well, they didn't give us a dev kit, and then Sony, I mean, this is where I think Sony made themselves look really stupid, is because they're talking about, hey, look it, we're not going to have, we don't want to give the dev kits to Microsoft because they're going to have information and they're going to make lesser versions of those games. And it's like, well, that's not Microsoft's problem. You're the ones that are saying we're not going to give this to you, but you want the same parity. it doesn't work that way. It's not like Microsoft. Plus, there's millions of laws in place for that kind of stuff. Microsoft's not going to get the dev kit, break it down, open it up, and then start copying all the stuff. I mean, that's pretty. I would think that would be something easy to prove if Sony ever went to court for it. Because you have to have different patents and trademarks, and you just can't copy and paste technology like that. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not a copyright lawyer or anything like that, but it just seems, assuming so, that would be the case. But yeah, their case about immediate harm to versions of games coming out on PlayStation 5 too was also debunked, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also they are doing MLB, right? And they make that for Xbox. Like, imagine like the kind of backlash they would have if they purposely were doing that. Like, let's say they threw a wrench on the Xbox versions. It's like, what are you doing? And it gets out. That's like bad PR. So if Microsoft was to play that card, like, we're going to make terrible Call of Duties for, one of the best selling games every year, and throw it on PlayStation, like as if no one's going to notice. I mean, that's you're going to get found out real quick.
Oh yeah. And what are they going to do with Destiny 2? Or the Destiny games with Bungie? Those are all coming out to Microsoft, and those are still a few years out. I'm pretty sure Microsoft is going to give them dev kits, because they want the best version possible. So it's really, really weird, that argument, to me.
Yeah,
lots of really weird arguments. Lots of reaching, especially from the FTC side. Personal opinion, of course, but they certainly seem to be trying every angle at this they could, and that really brings into question how genuine the concerns are, and if you're not just trying the try.
Yeah, I think that, like you were saying, they saw the dollar signs and they wanted to block like this big merger and get like a W, but they didn't really fully understand the market, and I think that was even more evident in the trial, where they were just like, the only thing they could really think about is like the possible harm that PlayStation could have, and that was mostly off of what PlayStation was saying just to get the merger blocked in the first place, which didn't really seem to have much grounds. And it seemed like I mentioned, like if they did do this weird like console parity issue, I think that would bring more bad PR than like, we got PlayStation, we're gonna keep making bad Call of Duties. It's like, no one's gonna do that. No one's gonna like tip their hand and be like, yeah, we make terrible ports elsewhere. I mean, we still talk about the Payday incident,
Right. It's not like a genuine, realistic concern, and that's kind of what I'm saying. And they keep trying to paint it that way, though, and to the point of getting multiple people swear under oath that yes, Call of Duty will come to PlayStation. So I guess earlier when I was talking about not offering the contracts, we can ignore that, because they did swear under oath to bring Call of Duty to PlayStation for 10 years moving forward. Maybe that was on stipulation that they signed the contract, because I feel like that has to be in writing. You can't just, he said so, even if it was under oath. So they have any legal recourse on it. So
and that's just been the whole case, like Grim was saying with the FTC, is that they're just doing a blanket throw over of, you're a big business, you're going down. You want to do this? Not if we have anything to say about it, because you're big business. And it's like, no, are you going after big business because they're big business? Or are you going after big business because it's a harm to the consumers? Like the whole Amazon thing they got going on through right now. That's a legitimate concern for, how it's almost impossible to cancel your Prime subscription. They see issues with that. That's a big business overreaching and possibly exploiting a consumer base. That's valid. Utilities, and the markup and the price gouging and things like that. That's a legitimate issue for consumers. Microsoft wanting to bring more games to more players across the world, not a legitimate issue. But for some reason, the FTC just has this hate boner for big business, and they just want to take it down purely because it's big business.
Yeah, and when this is over with, they're going to claim a win, no matter the outcome. So I think that's kind of what Judge Corley was kind of getting to there when she mentioned that you've already won in a lot of ways. They're going to say, hey, we got these concessions. Hey, we slowed it down. Hey, we took a close look at this. So even though they're going to be big old losers, as far as I'm concerned, they're still going to be having a victory parade for themselves, being like, we did our jobs. And I think that's the most realistic outcome of this. I think that makes everybody happy.
There's just going to be all, as soon as the case ends, and then they're just going to open up their briefcases and just start passing out participation trophies.
Well,
to
I mean,
all
that's
the other
kind of
lawyers.
it's exactly what's going to happen. But with that outcome, everybody does get their participation trophy. Everybody gets to walk away feeling like a winner. This was resolved in a way where concessions were made, that it was made workable for consumers to a better angle. And I still I just really believe that's the outcome here. But I will say that I was completely flabbergasted when the CMA did their rejection of the merger. So you can't take anything for granted. But my goodness, there's a lot of eggs in this basket of this finally resolving, as we've all been hoping for, very patiently. So, yeah, Minecraft makes 4 times more revenue on the Switch than Xbox. Isn't that amazing? 4 times as much money.
I believe it too, though. The Switch, I mean, man,
targeted to
Prince money,
and it's targeted to that demographic maybe a little bit, so your younger gamers are there. I feel safer as a parent having my kid play on a Switch if they're under 10 or something than Xbox or PlayStation, where, my God, scary out there. Don't let your kids play Overwatch, let me tell you. Or any shooter game, really, right? I'm sure Call of Duty's great.
Yeah.
Before we kind of chunk in some other news from the week here, is there any kind of do you guys want to wrap it up? How do you feel about this? Where do you think we go from here? Because that's kind of the question we posed in the title tonight. What's next?
So legally, what's next is, the judge is going to vote on it, or she's going to make her decision, and if it's sealed, which it is sealed, so it's either going to be the Microsoft breaking the news first or the FTC, depending, in my opinion, on who won.
Probably
Microsoft
the winner. Yeah.
Whoever the history books will remember is who's going to make the first posting. So, and then once we go from there, I don't know if the FTC is going to have enough time to appeal, if they will see an appeal, if there be any reason to. They may just take this on the chin and just kind of go from there, which they rightfully should, because I don't want my tax dollars wasted anymore on this tomfoolery. And then that's it. But if Microsoft loses, it's going to be a hard uphill battle. Sure, they can appeal, but will they get that in enough time before the July 18th deadline? I think with the emergency, it's a very slim chance. This would be a for sure Hail Mary play. I think they could get the appeal. I think I read somewhere on Florian's site or on one of his tweets that they could, and then that would drop the PI temporarily as the appeal is in process, which would allow Microsoft to close. I'm not too sure on that, but if that's something, so that's also another avenue. But either way, once this passes the FTC, we'll probably hear something a day or two later, or maybe a week later, from Microsoft closing the deal.
I wonder about that.
Or walking away.
I do. I wonder about that, because we've gotten the shorter time frame in the UK. There's been lots of this talk about closing over, looking for ways to kind of work around the UK being a thorn in their sides, kind of. So I actually don't know, and I've been reading a lot of analysts. I don't think anybody really knows what the exact next move is for Microsoft. I would not be shocked if this injunction is denied, if Microsoft doesn't start moving forward full steam ahead, because we have that deadline, which which we've talked about. They have maybe 3-4 weeks before they have to cut that check for $3 billion. At which point this becomes a lot more difficult to complete. So we'll all be waiting.
I think they will.
Yeah, and
I think they'll close over the CAT and everything, over CAT and CMA. They've been getting so much pressure, and even CAT denied CMA's request for extension, and they're saying, nah, we don't see a reason. This is stupid. You're gonna have your same time frame. We want to get this done and over with. And I think that's a very, very good sign for Microsoft. So I think they will 100% close over the CMA and CAT. And I mean, even Nadella said, very eloquently, F around and find out what's going to happen if you guys want to block this. We have other options like geofencing the UK. It's a nuclear option, but it seems like Microsoft isn't going to hold up a $70 billion deal over one country when,
and not even 70.
40 other countries have.
Just those $3 billion is that's a lot of incentive to maybe look at some alternatives rather than waiting up for the UK to drag its feet. They might rather pay or deal with those consequences rather than just writing a loss for $3 billion. But then again, Activision, they'd probably be happy to take a check for $3 billion. So I guess
it's Microsoft. They make that in
it's lunch
couple
money.
Of days.
Right.
Yeah.
Lunch money, darn. So again, it's a story that keeps on giving, but I think the the end of the day here, the light at the end of the tunnel. We can all see the promised land. We're hoping that if you're an Xbox gamer or a Blizzard fan, we all have reasons, I guess, for opposing or supporting this deal, but we all just want an outcome. I think that's the one thing that everybody can agree on, and that's where I've always gone to, even when disagreeing with people in Reddit and comments and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm with you. I want this done too. I think everybody can agree it's dragged on for an insanely long amount of time. It's the fatigue is real and all that. So get it together. Let's get this done.
Yep. Like I said, I think by Wednesday, we should have something. Wednesday or Thursday. I don't think it's going to go longer than next week.
The CMA hearings are scheduled for the 28th. They're expected to last for 4 to 6 days. That's for the complete review. That's the thing that the CMA was trying to get delayed. So by the end of this month, again, we'll have the other big ruling, one way or the other. So some of the some of the language from that CAT review. Section number 23. This is the CAT denying the CMA's request for extension. We consider that the CMA has not paid sufficient heed to the true public interest in this case, which is the swift resolution of Microsoft's notice. The CMA has chosen to revisit a matter already decided, namely an end of July-August hearing and not an October hearing, basically the extension, when there has been no material change of circumstance. The judge is saying nothing has changed here. You don't need more time. It's exactly the same as it was a month ago. Furthermore, the CMA has made the application indefensibly late with no explanation. And finally, there has been no attempt by the CMA to explore, either with Microsoft or the tribunal, ways in which the burden might be eased. Like, it's basically saying you're not trying, guys. The only thing you're trying to do is be slow. There's all kinds of other efforts you could be making here to find a resolution to this, and they're not. So in speedy processes like this, the tribunal stands ready to assist where it can, ensure that inappropriate burdens are lifted. It is disappointing that such dialogue has not taken place in this case. It's the finger wag. It's like, come on, guys, you can't. Enough of this. So if you're looking ahead, and the injunction is denied, that's where we're going next. And that's the kind of frame of mind that's happening in the UK too. So that's why a lot of us are feeling very positive about the direction of the ABK, Microsoft, Endeavor, Odyssey, Saga. What is this? All of those.
And that's where I paraphrase. But yeah, essentially that's just the cat saying to CMA, "You're stupid. This is stupid. Let's get this over with. It's a waste."
Absolutely. It's so much better to read. Like that judge was just like almost every line in there is such a dive. So I think we've gone full tilt on it. I think we gave a pretty good wrap up about what happened this week. We are expecting that decision within the next 2 weeks. Is that what you said, Kevin?
I would say I don't think this is going to go more than next week. I don't think the CMA did enough to really create that much doubt. I mean, FTC. Never say never. I mean, the FTC, sorry. The FTC really did that much to create so much doubt that the judge is going to have to weigh on this for a pretty long time. I think when she asked her question, she got the answers she needed. And I think everything after this point is purely just to have your P's and Q's, dot your I's, cross your T's kind of thing. And then I think by Wednesday or Thursday, we'll probably hear a judgment. That's just me. Or maybe they might wait till the week after to hear a judgment, but I don't think she's going to take that long to make the actual decision. So by Friday or next Monday, I would assume we would have something. But that's just an assumption. Don't take it as fact. I just can't see it going longer than what it needs to.
All right, Nate. Yeah. Nate's joined us in chat. Just wanted to say hi to him.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going? But yeah, I think you pretty much summarized it well. Where it's like at this point, I think there's enough out there for that decision to be made. And I'm thinking Microsoft's probably got it in the bag because the FTC didn't really, just based on the case alone, the FTC I don't think really brought forth their argument very well. And I think Microsoft wants to get it done just as much as we were tired of hearing about it. So I don't think it's so much that they're worried about like having to pay that $3 billion. I think they just want to get this as quick as they can and just move on and get going with what their plans were this whole time.
I think they have plans. I think there's somewhere secretly hidden is like a little binder that's like, what do we do once we kick the gears into motion? And I would love to see that because I have that's the fun part to me. This is like, it's kind of wild. This has been kind of fun in like a masochistic kind of way, but actually getting to the part where we're deciding what to do with these games and franchises and seeing what Microsoft's going to do with them. we've got a lot of indications that they're gonna kind of stick with that hands-off thing. They're not looking to bring everything in-house or move campuses or anything like that. They're gonna let Activision, and Blizzard. I hope that they can cut that a little bit. I hope Blizzard can become more independent. That's one of my hopes for the outcome here. And Activision can focus on their Activision things. I think that's gonna let those studios do what they do best. I think the merger's kind of been a little messy for both of them, including, as I've said many times, Activision is very good at making money, and now other games seem to have that as a primary drive. And while I appreciate that, I don't think that should always be your first design influence, if you will. So, anyways, we're all hoping for a good, quick, speedy outcome, and that's some of the stuff that I am excited to see. That stuff after this happens, and what kind of layoffs happen. Another one. This is kind of a dark side of it that people don't talk about yet. There's going to be a lot of redundant positions, So I think Bobby's going to take his golden parachute. I think we all know that, but Microsoft doesn't want that kind of toxicity or poison around the main campus anyway. So we'll soon find out.
I will say, yeah, Bobby's testimony was just, it just sounded like he woke up from a very, very long cocaine bender when he was on the stand, because he was just like, and then I was like, Harrison Ford, is that you?
No, they all went out and got trashed the night before.
He just woke up in a mountain of cocaine around him, and just, I don't know. He just seemed very just out of it. He just didn't really care. But yeah, I think you are right. I think he's gonna take his golden parachute.
He was on message though.
Kids will be set for life.
Oh, they are. Bobby was on message. He was sleepy sounding, but I think he towed the line. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the points he wanted to make, and he did so. Like we were talking about the Switch and stuff like that. He's like, oh no, I wish I had, but we didn't.
Yeah, and I think like that you also have to keep in perspective. Like, now the Switch is like, of course, it's a success, but I remember at the time there was like a lot of naysayers, and it's also coming off the heels of the Wii U, which was like terrible for sales and everything like that. So it's like, can you really blame Bobby for being like, oh yeah, we just didn't think about it? Because it's like, what do we have to work with? Like, evidence wise, it looked like it would have been a waste of time.
100%. So we'll have a conclusion this week. If we do get like a big decision, we've talked about using stages on here. That would be a great time to bring up a stages, and maybe we can get that incorporated. That's going to give you all a chance to come up like we used to do on the talk client and weigh in. We would love to hear some different opinions. We'd love some trolls. I hate to say that. Don't be a mean. Don't be a dick, obviously, but come in and share your opinions, your dissenting opinions, because we want to debate those with you. It is good to have those different perspectives. I've said from the very beginning, I understand the concern about Call of Duty. If a PlayStation was the only console I had, I would be like, man, is it really cool that they can just take that away from me? But hopefully, we can talk about how that concern has been eased as we move to this trial, at least what I've seen. So anyways, like I said, if we have to have an emergency show, we will do it. We did it the very first night this deal was announced, way back in 1903, and we've been doing it ever since. So obviously joking about the 1903, but let's touch a little bit of other news here. I think we have. How's our coverage today, guys? What would you rate us? I'm giving us like a 7 out of 10 because honestly, we're not lawyers, and that's probably still being generous.
I think we paraphrased a lot of good stuff, but I think we got the message out there that almost every other site's been saying as well in other podcasts. I think everyone's in unison about this deal and what we've said. So
they are.
I know. I'm gonna say we did an 8 out of 10.
Oh my goodness.
8 out of 10.
Ooh, yeah, I like it. This guy, I want you rating everything I do because you grade on a curve.
There we go.
That's fine.
8 out of 10.
I would say it's an 8 out of 10 as well. Sometimes it's nice to not have actual lawyers and stuff trying to give their expert opinion, because so much can happen in a courtroom, and it really is just based on what's there. You kind of have to look at it in a very objective way, based on what this judge was saying and how this trial went, it would be really weird if they went this way with it rather than typically because of this stuff, I don't know, it gets a little too analytical, and I think it misses the point where it's what just happened in front of me, like
Mr. Lee.
Yeah.
He was a very analytical dude. I wouldn't say analytical. I would say no, just it's so much. Can we talk about Golem?
Oh,
Let's just kick it into first gear.
All right, yeah, let's move on.
Daedalic is
beat this horse.
Yeah, Daedalic is the developer of Golem, that well-received game from last month. Was it already? It's already been forgotten. Basically, they're ending all internal development, and that's awful. It's bad. We don't want to see anybody losing jobs or anything like that. But to me, it's almost, can a game be so bad that it just crushes your studio? Like you just quit making games? Like it almost appears to be the case here. They're gonna focus on publishing, so they're still gonna be pushing games out, but they are done. A 38 Metacritic score for Golem, in case you were wondering where that ended up. Nobody here had the misfortune of playing it, I would assume, because it costs money, and we value our money, right? So it's the lowest rated game of the year. They even apologized like shortly after it released. They're like, we're sorry, it's an underwhelming experience. We deeply regret that the game did not meet expectations. They've pledged to improve it via future updates. This now remains in question now. This definitely seems like an oopsie.
You know what's weird though is that a game like that, because it's a license and it was bad, is probably one of those games that's going to get delisted over time, and then everyone's going to be like scalping the physical copies. Like, oh well, you can't get it anymore. Here's $100 copy of Golem. You know?
But the story is really good. You just got to touch through the gameplay.
A hidden gem.
Yeah, I mean, people will complain and cry about it too. They'll be like, "Oh, how could they delist this game and take it from us?" Yeah, exactly. It's always kind of funny. We got a rumor this week about Assassin's Creed. They're remaking Black Flag, which is, why would you remake Black Flag and not make a new Black Flag? Is my kind of point. And I know we get this with all remakes, and I know that Black Flag is very well respected. But I'm not the Assassin's Creed expert. Have you guys played Black Flag?
Oh yeah,
I own it. I got it with an Xbox pack-in, but it's one of those games I never went back to. Did you like Black Flag? I think it's pretty well received, right? But some people say it's their favorite.
So I did like it, but it also had a lot of the Assassin's Creed tropes I don't like trailing missions and just, desynchronization when you get found out. If they did do a remake, which, I mean, this is me going on like a no way this is ever going to happen. I really would like them to try and bring back what they were trying to do with Unity between the parkour elements and even the combat, and just have that in Black Flag's like overall idea of like being a pirate. And like if I decide to show up somewhere and I get found out, it's not the end of the world. I think that would be a more fun Black Flag remake than just like, I don't know, doing like a Syndicate improvement type feeling.
I love pirate games, so if there was any Assassin's Creed that I would probably give a go, it would be go back to check that out. I get weird with the remakes. Again, I feel like this, if the game was that well loved, then why not just kind of kick out a totally new version than doing a remake kind of thing, retelling the same story. I think the fans would probably be more into that in some way. And again, I guess we'll see. This is just a rumor at this point. We do know that Assassin's Creed is a huge focus right now for Ubisoft, and as much as they have something crazy like 12 games in development, these obviously are not all AAA releases. Some of them might be mobile and that kind of stuff, but they are definitely pursuing this franchise and looking to expand and build on it. Ubisoft's been having kind of maybe a little bit of trouble lately. They're not doing as well as they'd like to be, so maybe this kind of rebranding and new focus might end up being good for them, because it is a very well received series. This just seemed like kind of a weird move to me, but again, I'm not the expert, so maybe other people are out there being like, "No, this is awesome, you dummy, shut up." So
oh, definitely. Black Flag is such an amazing experience, and yeah, I agree. It was real easy to get desynced and stuff like that. I hope they kind of improve that. I think it's a very antiquated gameplay mechanic system, that they created, that they've slowly started to move away from, to where now it's more like, if you fail a certain aspect, which makes sense, because that's, that would cause a desync, but just getting noticed, it's like, okay, you could probably get your way out of that. Go for a more Hitman-ish aspect of it versus the old school Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Because, like, if anything, you could just, like, okay, that didn't get you 100% or something like that,
Yeah. Go for a more Hitman style. I think that would actually really, really suit the Assassin's Creed games, especially the older ones, a lot better. Bring them definitely more into a modern generation.
For sure. So this one was kind of weird to me. Just kind of broke, let's see, on the 29th, so a couple days ago. But there's a Minecraft Legends event in Age of Empires 2, the definitive edition, and Minecraft mobs are attacking your villages in Age of Empires right now, and it's such a weird crossover. I don't have any video I can pull up, unfortunately, but just to see like these little creepers, they're marching at you like RTS style, and just it's like 100 of them, and it's just so cute looking. I don't know how else to explain it. It's kind of the opposite of what the Age of Empires kind of vibe is to me. So if you do have that game, I believe that's a Game Pass title. I'm like 100% sure. So you can check out that crossover event if you want to see something kind of different and new, and you're bored, I guess.
Kind of out of left field, but our Xbox on Twitter page, that is verified, correct?
It is.
Okay. Just making sure. Musk just released a press statement saying that he's limiting how many people can view posts based on their status. So verified can do 6,000 post views a day, and then that's it. They don't see any more. Unverified only gets 600 posts viewings a day.
Wow, he's like, hey, Reddit, hold my beer.
Yeah,
but he doesn't care, because yesterday he was also flaunting that Twitter has the most active user time in its history, in existence, even after all of the missteps. And it goes to show you that these entrenched social networks are entrenched. It's really hard to shake that vibe. And there's been all kinds of alternatives to Twitter. I've checked out almost all of them. I got the Blue Sky yesterday, and they all look like
Blue Sky.
Yeah, they look like great alternatives, but again, you don't have that traction reaching like mass scale. It's very difficult to do so. And Reddit was kind of lucky that Dig imploded as badly as it did, because you really, really, really have to mess up to create an exodus, apparently.
Oh yeah,
because Twitter is not my favorite place right now. But again, it's where, if you want news, if you want where people are, that's the place you gotta sync to. And we can talk about Reddit, and all the issues that they've been having lately, and what a mess that is. But honestly, that's an entire another podcast, and it's just a mess.
Sorry, I didn't mean to side rail it. I just wanted to make sure, because for marketing and stuff and the work.
No, it's fair.
This directly impacts our viewingship because of the work we do with developers on trying to get their AMAs noticed and things like that to bring in. It's definitely something that that kind of sucks for us.
One of the biggest things that we do is I was just going to talk about, we had Bramble, the Mountain King. I just, hold on, I'm going to get that title exactly right. Oh, no, I can't find it at the moment. I will in a second. But anyways, they stopped by and did an AMA earlier with us week, and we'd love to help promote those guys. These are small teams. They don't have a marketing budget. They can't go to IGN and be like, hey, I want a full page ad for the weekend, because that costs $500,000, But what they can do is they can come to these communities that you all help us build, and they can get their word out organically, really organically. We're not making any money on this, obviously. Reddit gets ad revenue, and I guess that's the toll, if you will, to use their bandwidth and all that. But basically, this is a great way for these smaller studios, these games that you haven't heard of, that don't have the marketing budget, to come out and share their games with you. And this is one that has been well received by a lot of you. I'm reading a post right now. Bramble is amazing. Don't miss it on Game Pass. 137 upvotes. So people are really drawn to this. It's so awesome when the developers can come in and just kind of talk. You can ask them just a simple question. I asked about the music, because the Mountain King is a piece of work. It's the music they use from the trailer. It's the one that goes do 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 do. Anyways, so sorry for that. But
what is that? Flight? No,
it's not Flight of the Bumblebee. It's called the Mountain King. It's a piece from a play. It's like a Nordish play. I forget which country, but it's pretty well known, anyways. And that song is it's public domain, first of all. So if you're an indie developer and you're on a budget and you need music for your game, what a great piece to bring in, because it doesn't cost anything. And anyways, people, like, it was just great to be able to talk to them. That screenshot alone has made me go download this. I went in blind. It's very dark, disturbing, and violent, which I wasn't expecting. I'm not going to read that username. Reddit's pretty wild sometimes. Let's say that. This gem came out of nowhere. Definitely one of the best games I've played this year. Is this real? I had zero interest in this game, but you're telling me you have to run away from a giant Samara? Consider me peaked. No, sorry, just changed my underwear already. Like people, anyways, you get the reception that this game is having. We're really excited to bring those in, and like Kevin just mentioned, when a platform like Twitter, going back to the side rail, it limits our exposure for those people. We're just out here trying to do some good, and it makes it harder for us to do that. That's annoying. Damn it.
No, it is. Yeah. Like that's my biggest thing is I just feel bad for these developers and publishers that do rely on these like connecting with their audience through like what we do with Reddit and the AMAs.
For sure. Oh,
what we're trying to do with Starfield, possibly.
I missed part of that. I think I dropped my sound for a second. So I heard Starfield.
Yeah.
Is that just me, Ivan?
No, I'm not hearing you.
Right,
it keeps like doing like a static thing.
Going in and out?
Yeah.
Right now. Check. Hello?
You're good.
Yeah, you're good now.
Hey, live,
okay, there we
live,
go. I think it's
live on the air.
I think it's my cable.
There we are.
No, so with Starfield, what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to get started to, is reach out to these people so we can try and get some really cool stuff to happen. I'm not that Starfield needs it. This is just kind of a segue into people reaching out and using our platform to get discovered and noticed. But yeah, we're trying to get Starfield devs to come on and do some AMA for you guys. I don't know. I'm trying to see if maybe we can get one of those awesome controllers and headsets to give away, things like that. But when we do have these things with these with these developers, it just makes it really hard when Twitter does stuff like that.
Yeah, Twitter, stop it.
Get some help.
Yeah, that's right.
To look forward to. Hopefully, guys, we can get you some really cool AMAs with the Starfield team. If anybody's listening from the Starfield team, please reach out to us. I've reached out a ton already. I just don't want to spam your inboxes.
So, needless to say, Kevin is on the job for us all here. We do sometimes reach out to bigger games like that, but most of the stuff comes from developers coming because they want to talk to you guys in the community, and then we just get random mod mails. So like, hey, can we come by and say hello and share our game, and then we verify it and send them on their merry way. So we'd love that. That's to me what still makes Reddit good. I'm less cool with Reddit after the last few months, as most people are. I love the concept, but we'll see how we all come out of this in the end. We should talk about a little bit. This isn't really going back to the trial, but there was a kind of I think it was Jim Ryan. Sorry, Jim Ryan kind of bashing Game Pass, and he's saying that all developers hate Game Pass and it devalues their games.
Jesus!
And that was quickly followed by Annapurna showing off 6 more games coming to Game Pass. No More Robots being like, oh, we got more games coming to Game Pass. All these they are kind of more indie developers, smaller game developers saying that no, we love the service and it's been very good for us. I think the point that Jim Ryan has made today, I haven't insulted that guy once this whole show, and I want to say that I'm proud of myself for that. No slang terms or anything, or no crying Ryans. Anyways,
Jim crying Ryan gonna make my deposition private. Ryan,
this is my fault. This is completely my fault. Anyways, Jim Ryan is. I think he's talking about the AAA stuff, and he thinks that putting like their games, the God of War on the service would devalue them somehow. And I guess we're about to get the big answer to that question with what happens with Starfield, because that's the first. I think it's the first like mega AAA game to launch on Game Pass. You can say Halo, and I get it, I do, but I don't think Halo even had the anticipation that Starfield has. Halo had a bunch of boomers wanting to still play Halo, me among them, but it's not that same draw. It's not as wide an audience as this one is. So we'll get answers very soon if Game Pass hurts that value, but maybe not, because it's not sales numbers and it's first party.
I mean, it hurts it so much that EA put their own subscription and Ubisoft put their own subscription service on Game Pass. I mean, well, not on Game Pass, but
right.
EA did.
That's even
EA
better
put their
evidence.
Subscription service, but Ubisoft made their own subscription service. That's how bad it devalues games. But I mean, what do I know?
And how do you? I wonder how that Ubisoft is doing. I would like to get numbers on that, especially faced with that competition of Game Pass.
I think they're going to take a big hit, or they've already probably taken a big hit. You won't see a big popularity increase or a subscription increase until they start getting those games out there like Assassin's Creed, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay the $15, $17 for the month to get the ultimate version and then play it, and then that's it. Unsubscribe. Once they come like with a big game that comes up, that's what I'm gonna do.
I think a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh,
you're good.
I was gonna say, I think if anything, that's probably the only like downside to like Game Pass. And it's not even for the developers. It would probably be for like the Xbox platform, like where they basically cannibalize their own sales by having Game Pass, but then they make up those sales by like selling DLC or something like that. But I don't think the developers just get a check and they're like, oh, cool, it's on a Game Pass, cool. And if it gets more downloads than a check, I guess that could hurt. But like, I don't think a developer's ever going to be like, oh man, I mean, it's getting exposure. Maybe people would have avoided the game, waited for a sale, and would have broken even anyway. Well, I mean, something like Starfield probably would have sold either way. But something for like an indie developer, I think they make bank on these things.
They get exposure. It's really hard in the indie scene. I'm sure most people do it. If you go to the Xbox store or the PlayStation store and you sort by new, oh man, there's a lot of garbage there. It's really hard to stand out. It's really hard to find the games that are worth playing, and then you resort on maybe user reviews, and we all know that that's kind of notoriously unreliable. Sometimes you can pick out individual reviews, and I think that can be helpful, but the overall score, you never know what they're scoring it on. A game could have, this game could be woke, that kind of stuff, where they get one because some of these political ideologies don't align with the games, and then to me that's not really ranking the gameplay. But what I'm getting to here is people give games bad ratings for a myriad of reasons, and when it's on Game Pass and everybody can rate it because it's free, they didn't even have to pay that money. It gets a little tougher. So finding those gems is hard. Finding those quality games is really hard. It's hard to stand out, and even bigger games sometimes have a harder time too. Speaking of past AMAs, we had Kepler here with Scorn a few months ago. They gave away some pretty kick-ass controllers designed by Pope Art.
They did.
And very, very kind to our team. They came back and did a Sifu giveaway with us too. But the reason I'm bringing them up is Scorn has reached over 2 million players now, which is pretty good. It's a Game Pass game, so those aren't necessarily sales, but that's a pretty solid number for a game that might be a little narrowly focused. It's not for everyone, and a lot of people found out. But it's a beautiful game, and if you're into like. What did Mikey say? If you're into like squishy insertions or something, it was awful. But anyways, this game has it for you because everything you have to like plug yourself into to make it work, and it's just kind of gruesome. So it's still available on Game Pass. If you haven't checked it out, it's out there. A lot of people seem to be giving it a try.
Speaking of Pope Art, did I ever tell you guys he reached out to jump onto the podcast?
You did.
Possibly. He reached out to me.
Yeah, he's real down to earth.
Is that something?
But he's
a really, really cool dude.
He's not doing controller art anymore. He's like who do you sign up with? He's a head of creativity for somebody pretty major. It's not Embracer, but it's somebody along those lines.
He has some pretty cool stuff. I think he still does like concepts and stuff like that. Let me follow him, or let me see real quick.
Yeah, I'm pulling him up right now. I was actually really happy for him because I know he's really close to the Kepler team too.
Free Mode Group.
Yeah, those guys.
Embracer.
Yeah, those guys are. Oh, yeah, Embracer. Those guys are all based in London. They're all kind of cliquey, and they all seem very cool. We need to get Anthony to infiltrate them. So we can get some more inside scoops from them. Kepler's been very good with us. Very, very good with us. They've shared inside details with us, and they're always first to line up for an AMA. They always come prepared. They always bring giveaway items. That's the stuff we love to see because when we were talking about it, when companies do come to us, it is promotion. It is advertising. We know it's not all about the organic. Oh, we just want to be chummy with the fans. We know people are just trying to get their games out there, but teams that have themselves put together makes that kind of stuff a lot easier. So congrats to them. Congrats on 2 million players. That's a pretty big number for a game that might not have wide appeal. So other big stories of the week. A week after launch, Crash Team Rumble is struggling. The multiplayer spinoff has double-figure viewership on Twitch, meaning like in the 90s, in the hundreds, suggesting a lack of interest. I don't know. I actually didn't know Crash Team Rumble came out. Did you guys know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing.
Oh yeah, you were the one that told me you were playing it. I forgot about that.
I feel really bad because the game is fun, but I think it was terribly marketed. I didn't even know what it was really like. I'm like, is it a MOBA? Like, what is it? And it's basically just a Crash Bandicoot game, but like with an objective where you have to score and then people just have roles. So it's not really a MOBA because there's no lanes per se, but it's fun. It's just I don't know why it came out and why they didn't talk about it coming out, and I'm just confused, you know. But it's sad, honestly, because it's not that bad. It should have been free to play, I think. You know,
I think that's a good point right there. So a lot of these games are probably free to play is a viable model. I don't love it. It's definitely caught on though. EA had that dodgeball one where they came out paid, and then they eventually had to go to free to play, and then they eventually canned it. I think that game might have had a better lifespan, better success if they just came out free to play right away, because at least then you're coming out confidently. Like when you move to free to play from the paid model, that doesn't that's a bad look. I think it's like, oh man, things aren't going too well, huh? Now you need to nickel and dime me with, it's just a gamer perception thing, I guess. But well, okay, maybe it's just kind of got overlooked. Again, I didn't really know about it until you explained it to me. So I'm watching some video right now. It looks kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the first season pass is free. Like, I guess that's like an early access thing. So I think it is probably going to move free to play. I think that was their plan the whole time, to be honest with you, because it just seems so odd how they just dropped it, hoped for the best. I think I saw some Twitter activity where they're like, oh boy, popping off, but obviously not.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It reminds me of what was Multiverses 2. It's another game. It doesn't remind me of that, but it's kind of weird that that game has just been pulled completely. It kind of started as free to play, kind of got trial, and it's hard to land a game these days. It's hard to make a successful game, and especially in crowded markets and crowded genres. So more power to them. Again, it's not a promising start by early accounts anyway. We were just talking about Sifu a little bit ago. Another Kepler published game. We should note that they have a final title update. They've just released a teaser for it. You can go check that out on YouTube if you want. A lot of people really love Sifu. They do. It's
awesome.
Enjoy the combat. Yeah, and it's kind of got some roguelike mechanics. There's a lifespan mechanic. You can only do so much before your character ages out. So if you're into it, look out for that update. That'd be really fun for those gamers. So I think that's about it for most of the big stories, except meow. Anybody? Any meow? That's my clue. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Stray.
Yeah. You want me to do it, or you want to?
No, please do. I'm tired of talking.
Stray is coming to Xbox August 10th. This is actually one of my favorite games from last year. I really love this game. It's a very short adventure. I think it's an awesome little, not really cat walking simulator, but kind of is in a sense. You have a free roamed area that you can jump around and doing stuff, but you're still very primarily much on rails. You don't get a big area to really explore. It's more of instances than you do actually open world. But actually one of my favorite games from last year. I bought it day one on Steam and played it using an Xbox controller. Played really well. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, outside of Final Fantasy on the PlayStation, PlayStation's my Final Fantasy machine, but I did play Stray. It's available on their subscription service, and what a pleasant surprise! What a good game. If you're into cats, that's a definite plus. It makes the game more appealing to you. On the PlayStation, it did really use those the force feedback triggers and some mechanics like that kind of well. That added a little bit more immersion, but it's gonna play just fine on Xbox. I will be happy to play through it again on Xbox. This one is not a Game Pass release, though. I mentioned it was on the PlayStation subscription service, but if you hold out, if you're a patient gamer, I think if you're like us up here, you probably got a lot to play right now. I don't know. I mean, if you're there's just so much out there. We talked about it, Street Fighter and Final Fantasy 16, and we have Starfield just around the corner. But anyways, this could be a patient gamer game if you've got too much to play right now. But if you're into cats and you love the stuff, it's worth a purchase. You're not going to be mad at yourself if you spent retail on this. It's that good of a game.
It's very cute, very fun. I had an absolute blast playing it. It's about a 5 to 6 hour adventure if you really power through it. There is an achievement, I believe, to get under 2 hours, so it is possible just to rush through this game really quick. But usually you miss out on a lot of that nuances that and great world building and the immersion of being a cat in a big robotic city that you would normally miss out if you try to run through it. It's take your time with it, have fun. I know I did, and it was magical.
Do you guys use guides? If you buy a game like this, do you immediately like pull up the guide to go along with it to help you through it, or do you explore and do the puzzles yourself?
I'll explore and do the puzzles myself.
Yeah, first go. I'll look up like a trophy thing just to see if there's like a missable, because I'd be like upset if it's like, oh, you didn't look at the TV in chapter 2, and I'm like, like something like that. But otherwise, I'm just going in.
Sure. Yeah, and the Final Fantasies, I remember them. You just remind me of that because I had horrible experiences now with both 2 and 4, where I've had to go back 15 hours because, oh, hey, you forgot to talk to that one dude in that one town, and that's a completely missable achievement type thing. So, in those situations, I do understand using guides, but my point being that Stray is a no guide game if you can do it. The puzzles are not overly complicated. It's very rewarding when you figure them out, and it's an exploration game. It's a game that you do want to. You want to discover the things yourself. You don't want to be like, oh, okay, next I need to go over here to this apartment building and this is going to happen. No, you want to wander around and then like stumble into that apartment building and be like, whoa, I can't believe that just happened. It's a very different way to experience it. So, but if you're stuck, you got to go to a guide. That's fine. I'm not going to dog you.
Yeah. And you mentioned that it's on the PlayStation subscription thing. It's actually leaving that on the 18th.
Oh,
so if anyone's on PlayStation,
act now.
Real quick. Not much time left.
A couple weeks.
That's not coincidental at all.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh man.
Well, guys, I think we hit kind of our runtime here. There were a few other side stories that maybe we'll throw in next week or something like that. I guess maybe the last thing to throw in here was just Microsoft wanted to buy a lot of people before Activision Blizzard. They were sniffing around Sega, sniffing around Sony, or not Sony. I'll cut that out of the podcast later because we get hate mail. They were looking at Square Enix.
They're basically Sony though.
God.
At this point, they're basically Sony.
My camera froze up on such a good frame. That's on
I heard like Playtonic was one of them, but I don't know if that was like serious, but that would have been cool.
Yeah.
I think that would have been like the ukulele people with Rare again. That would have been great.
It's just I think the big takeaway here is that they knew that they needed to add more to the stable even, and they were looking to ways to bring in the first party developers because they've been watching Sony, and to Sony's credit, Sony's been doing very, very well with their first party games. They're system movers, they're platform movers, and this is where we've come to. This is the gaming landscape that we live in now. So if anybody is surprised about that Microsoft was looking at those other studios, you shouldn't be, because they did almost the unthinkable and offered up the $70 billion.
Oh yeah.
Nate, thank you too, bud.
Do you think if they actually get the Activision deal, do you think they'll actually go back and try any of these other acquisitions that were on the table before, or you think they'll just lay low because they might get too much heat if they keep going?
I think. Go ahead.
Not for immediately, because this whole transition period of now they're trying to bring in Activision, that takes a lot. I mean, they're still getting their footing with Bethesda, it sounds like. They got them a little bit more incorporated and stuff like that, but there's still things like Redfall, and the lack of synergy that they had still happening. I wouldn't doubt that the same thing is probably going to happen, or the same thing will happen with Activision. They got so many studios that they oversee and manage. Just integrating and bringing them into that team, they may do little smaller purchases that probably don't need. There you go, Form. Oh, you're gone again.
I'm working on
it. So they may do something like that, but I think they'll lay just a little bit low, and then they'll probably come back out once they got their feet on the ground, and a little bit more stable. So things like Redfall don't happen. I mean, they did put up a job posting a while back, I believe, for a team, I think from the Coalition, to be like that external team we've always talked about. I mean, I brought it up before, where Coalition was supposedly the support team that went out to go help these other titles to kind of get their games. It was always a rumor, but it looks like they're actually making a position for that, or at least they're hiring for that position right now. That was posted, I think, last week or earlier this week. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was just mucking with my camera, so I missed a part of that. But it looks like Coalition and all that's going. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. On that note,
let's
wrap it up there.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this. I'm glad I waited to have my first blank until 2 hours into the podcast. So we've made it. That's the sign.
See, I get mine at the start because then after that it's just all uphill from there. You really can't go any worse from there.
You know what? That camera locked up on me and it is completely threw me sideways. I should just turn the thing off. So here's my beautiful face. Very important. Everybody listening to this is just like, come on, dude. So
yeah, you guys want to go around the horn?
I do.
What we're gonna play?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, you want to go first before your camera goes out again?
Yeah, fine. I mean, I was gonna wait, but still, I will wrap Final Fantasy IV this week. If anybody's been paying attention, I'm on the Final Fantasy 1 through 16 mega train. Who knows how many years it's gonna take me to get through them all? But it's been fun. Going back to those old titles is fun to me, and it's, not just the music. There's a lot of nostalgia involved in it. You might be able to think to a game that you played when you were like 10 to 13 years old, and it's probably your favorite game of all time because that's just such a special age range. And Final Fantasy just happened to hit that note for me. For some people, it's Halo. Everybody. It might be for my daughter. It's Skyrim, who has been waiting for a sequel her entire life, and I shared the Elder Scrolls 6 kind of rumor with her, and she was very excited to know that at least is going to be happening, maybe before she gets out of college. So we'll see on that. But anyways, lots of retro gaming for me, lots of Final Fantasy. Waiting for that Diablo season. Still playing Overwatch. I've moved from bronze to gold. It's been a slow roll. It's respectable now. It used to be really bad.
Yeah. Grim, what are you going to be finishing up or starting this week?
I think I'm going to try and finish Final Fantasy 16, which is a big undertaking, but I think I'm decently way through, so that shouldn't be too bad. Mostly because once I can sort of have that in the back, the rear view mirror, I can maybe work on playing Street Fighter again because I really miss that.
Nice.
And that's the game that I need to stay away from because I know I'll just end up playing that and just, oh yeah, that's right, I have a bunch of games like that I'm just not touching because I keep playing Street Fighter.
That's Overwatch for me, and for like 5 years that was World of Warcraft. I missed almost an entire console generation because I was so into World of Warcraft. And there's a lot of games that people that's like right when Gears was kind of starting, and all these big franchises that people just absolutely love. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember when they kind of first came out. And meanwhile, I'm 20 hours a day in a MMO, but right now it's Overwatch. I feel bad sometimes when I play Overwatch, and it's kind of a hard balance for me. I'm like, man, I'm loving Overwatch, man, I'm having so much fun, but there's no progression there, other than you can move your rank up a little bit, but there's no story. I don't get achievement points. When I look at my achievement score, it's still under 100K. I'm like a 16-year Xbox gamer, break that down. But the reason is I play games like Terraria, I play Overwatch, I play Call of Duty for a couple years. These games are high replay, but you don't get that kind of progression. You don't get that satisfaction of beating something, of moving a story along, that kind of stuff. And I make time for that now because I think that's an important experience they have on gaming too. These grinding games, they're fun, but man, they're tough to your other gameplay. Like you were saying, like if you got in a Street Fighter, I want to play Final Fantasy 16 right now, and instead I'll, my side to Final Fantasy 4 is Overwatch, like I said, and I'm not sure if I'm happy with it. I'm having like a crisis here on the air. Well, I'll deal with this later. I'll get back to you. Yes, I'll get back to you next week. God. I'll straighten this all out in my own head and tell you how I progress next week. I do want to keep progressing in games. I don't want to be just playing those wall games where it's fun, but like I said, there's no satisfaction. Kevin?
Diablo 4, pretty much. I really, really want to go to I really want to get to World Tier 4. I really want to get up there. I may do Arcade Paradise when that comes to Game Pass. I don't know when, though. I forgot to look at the date. I'm assuming maybe sometime this week it's supposed to come.
Do you have like a down game? Do you have a game that oh, that was real sweaty, I'm all tense, I just need to chill for a little bit? Because that's what Arcade Paradise is. I recommend it to anybody.
It varies. So I don't know. Like I usually just I haven't played this like Halo. Me and my buddies were talking about it. Like, man, we think we might have an issue. A problem. We play a lot of Diablo right now. Let's do some Halo, and then we ended up playing more Diablo. So it didn't work. But yeah, usually sometimes I like WWE 2K 23. I went back to that just for a little bit because I was getting really burnt out. Not burnt out on Diablo, but I was just like, I need something else. But yeah, I do different ones. Moonglow Bay. I played that a lot extensively. I know I was doing so well too.
No, that was good. That was just a little stumble.
Yeah, just a tiny stumble. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. I just do different games.
Yeah, I usually just have a chill game because, like I said, sometimes you have a bad night in Overwatch, or even Diablo can be a little grindy. You just need to do something that's like a little less in your face and a little more relaxed, and sometimes doing laundry and playing some old arcade cabinets. It's just the recipe for that. So that's a good shout out. I got some footage up now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see what the game's about. They're removing gum from the side of a washer. They're doing laundry. If you're wondering like what, no, I don't want this. There's a whole room in the back of this place, and it's all arcade cabinets, and that's what the game is really about. You use the laundry side to fund this beautiful arcade that you're building with all these cabinets that are totally playable. They're all retro-inspired games.
A speakeasy arcade.
Yeah, kind of. So excited to hear your impressions on that. I'm not sure the exact Game Pass release date, but pick it up out there. I'm giving that one a thumbs up. It's a solid 8 out of 10 game, maybe a 7.5. Which is pretty good for a simulator.
I'm pulling it up right now. 29th, Farming Sim comes out. Where is it? Arcade Paradise. And then moving to early July, Game Pass gets 2 games, is the Arcade Paradise, but it doesn't say, on July 3rd. So 2 more days, Monday.
Nice.
So I actually have Monday off. So I will be playing Arcade Paradise.
Yeah, terrific. It's a great Monday game. I hope it's raining too, because you live in California. It never rains there.
Yeah. We only get one season.
one season. Nothing wrong with that. So thanks so much, guys. Again, we had a smaller crew this week. Mikey is golfing. Lucky guy. It's middle of summer. You should get outside sometimes, gamers. That's my health tip for you.
What Foreman's saying is literally go touch grass.
Touch grass. Sometimes it's actually good for you. So, and Anthony has some family obligations this week, but hopefully they will be back to join us next week. Thanks to Nate, Ayla Music, New Era Panda. You guys stopping by to say hi is always appreciated. We're gonna look at that stages. We're gonna get that big news probably this week, maybe next week, about the FTC ruling, and we'd love to get some takes on there, what you guys have been playing, just to catch up. We missed that. I know we keep saying it. Them killing Reddit Talk was a huge, just a huge yuck. But we all have plenty of complaints about Reddit right now, so that's just the tip of the iceberg. So what I'm saying is we miss you guys. We want to bring you back on the show so we can get you out there too, get your opinions, and it's kind of fun, I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, no, it was always great, because sometimes they, would bring in opinions or thoughts that we weren't even considering, and then we just bounce off that too,
Yeah, it brings this like kind of unpredictability about it. We hosting every week with you guys, we get to know our tendencies and stuff, and having that fresh perspective is always helpful, even when it challenges us. Like I said, that's always a good thing too. So I'm gonna start up that music. Here we go again. We're gonna call it another week.
All right.
There we go.
Perfect. Yeah, there's a little bit of delay on my screen, so I can't really see what's happening.
Nothing's happening. It's just music, and I'm just I'm waving. Hey, everybody have a good week. Go touch grass.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah, go touch grass, guys.
That's
happy gaming and grass touching.
Yeah, have a good one, everybody.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Se ven las colinas de mi Borinquen. Qué linda se ven las colinas en el amanecer. Luquillo, playa preciosa en mi Borinquen. la guancha perla hermosa. El amanecer. Una de la bomba y plena, de la danza y ese chorreao. Son ritmos que para el mundo Puerto Rico le ha brindado. Cuna de la bomba y plena, de la danza y ese chorreao. Son ritmos que para el mundo Puerto Rico le ha brindado. Se ven las colinas de mi Borinquen, querida. Qué linda se ven las colinas en el amanecer. Luquillo, playa preciosa en mi Borinquen, querida. La guancha perla hermosa en el amanecer. Una de la bomba y plena, de la danza y ese chorreao. Son ritmos que para el mundo Puerto Rico le ha brindado. Una de la bomba y plena, de la danza y ese chorreao. Son ritmos que para el mundo Puerto Rico le ha brindado. Por eso quiero volver a las playas de Borinquen. Por eso regresaré a sus palmares otra vez. Por eso quiero volver a las playas de Borinquen. Por eso regresaré a sus palmares otra vez. Qué linda es la parguera y las colinas del monte. Vámonos para la playa al ver el lindo horizonte. Por eso quiero volver a las playas de Borinquen. Por eso regresaré a sus palmares otra vez. Por eso quiero volver a las playas de Borinquen. Por eso regresaré a sus palmares otra vez. El faro de Ponce alumbra a los veleros del mar. Qué hermosa y linda es mi tierra, como ella no hay igual. Por eso quiero volver a las playas de Borinquen. Por eso regresaré a sus palmares otra vez. Por eso quiero volver a las playas de Borinquen. Por eso regresaré a sus palmares otra vez. cuna tropical. En Puerto Rico, allí me pongo a gozar. Puerto Rico es mi cuna tropical. En Puerto Rico, allí me pongo a gozar.
Borinquen, tierra tan bella, Borinquen, isla preciosa.